Hi, sorry. Welcome back to FutureFast, and we have Hilda once again with us. And for those of you who have missed out on previous conversations, I really urge you to go look up our two parts of the conversation we have had with Hilda. One would have come as Monday Starters, where she talks about her journey, and the second part is where she talks about her business and good insights on the industry as well, which is on the Just Business, which has appeared on the Wednesday previously. So today we are talking to Hilda again, and this time it's to get her perspective on the future. And Hilda, welcome back once again. And thank you so much for making time to do this effort and really appreciate it. And I'm sure lots of our listeners will appreciate it as well. So, what do you see the biggest changes happening in the future?
I think if I look at my landscape, the L&D landscape, I see mainly the topics that we're teaching are changing. People are interested in different topics than 2 or 5 or 10 years ago. Like 5 years ago, everybody wanted time management. Now those days are over, you might say. Not that people won't need it anymore, of course they do. But if they then ask time management, they see it from a very different perspective. Well, they might still call it time management. From a different perspective, well-being of people is like really, really in the core of our business now. Because there's a lot of burnout here in Europe. And so companies are dealing with that. It's a huge loss for companies as well when people do go in burnout. So they stay away for weeks, months, sometimes more than a year, which is a big loss for a company, not even talking financially, but like you have to hire somebody new, or the colleagues have to take over, which is of course a very big pressure on the colleagues. So the whole idea of well-being and treating your employees well is actually for us the main topic for the future. And there we see a few themes around that, which is leadership, but then very much on non-toxic leadership, because in the past we've unfortunately, also here in Belgium last week, there was still a case about toxic leadership that came in the newspaper. There are still too many bosses yelling and screaming at their employees and making them feel so small, and then maybe feeling sick and going into burnouts. That we have to take care of our people. We know that now. And taking care of people has long been seen as like a too soft approach of people. If you're too soft to your people, then maybe they won't work hard anymore. But actually, science has shown lately, because we're different than 30 years ago. We're different people. We're different human beings. We have evolved. Well, science has shown very much that actually, if you treat your people well, they will have better performance. So it's a business thing. So treat them well because it's good for your company. It's not what the people thought before, like if we treat them too well, they will start playing around and not work anymore. No, not at all. That's not how it works. People that feel well, that are motivated, they see the sense also. That, by the way, that's the last one that I was looking for Daniel Pink. Yeah? Purpose.
Okay.
Purpose was the last
one.
Yeah, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That was that third one that I was looking at. People see the purpose or the sense. Then
for the listeners, you will find it. What is this about? If you have not listened to the first conversation, then you will not be able to connect it. So I urge you, listen to the first part, then you will connect the purpose to it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So purpose is very important for people as well. Right. So that's what we see, so everything is connected to that leadership. Another thing that we see for the future, or theme that is connected to that, is actually neurodiversity, meaning when we had people with autism spectrum disorders, or we call them disorders then, or with ADHD, or all those different ways of being, you might say, we would like put them aside and say like, we don't need these kind of people. Well, now we see a more trend of diversity and inclusion, D&I, we call that, where those kind of people, the neurodiverse people that are different maybe from yourself, that we try to integrate them into companies, and that we say like, it's actually good that we have different or diverse employees here. By having diverse employees, we'll even come up with better ideas, or we will be more creative in finding solutions. So that's also a big trend, all related again to that well-being, you might say. So
How
those are a few things for the future.
how do you see that? See, earlier the diversity, geographically, obviously, diversity meant at a highest level, it was men and women
Mm-hmm,
itself
mm-hmm.
being diverse,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And then diversity meant racial, right? White,
Mm-hmm.
black, color. And
Mm-hmm.
then the diversity meant religious beliefs coming
Yes.
from different parts of the world. And today, diversity, it's not that every time we move to a different diversity, you don't leave the other part. Men
Yeah,
and
of
women stay. You add to it with
course.
uh, uh, colors or racial thing to the diversity. So the gender, the color, and faith, and now their sexuality.
Yeah, so
So
neurodiversity, you call it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So each of these things add to it. So now today they are relevant everywhere, right? In every part of the world, and
Mhm.
to top it or to add to it, there is this strong flavor of right wing that is taking over across, right? There is a stronger sense of nationalism coming up, and how do you see this impacting the business?
Sorry, it was stopped again. There is
Oh,
something, the connection. I'm
oh,
sorry, very much
no,
sorry.
not a problem. So I was saying, with adding to all this different aspects of diversity,
Mhm.
now there is a new spirit of nationalism coming up, right? That I forgot one of the recent one of the things in the news that I was following. In Africa, one of the countries actually have banned uh, or have officially banned to recognize any gender other than male and female,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a legally anybody else claiming to be otherwise are
Mhm.
treated as criminals.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so in an environment which is all coming with more a spirit of nationalism, right?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
I saw the speech by one of the politicians making in the parliament of that country, talking about that this is how we will take our country forward,
Yeah.
right? So,
Mhm.
so these kind of things are not isolated, not only in Africa. These things are happening across the globe. Even in
Absolutely.
Europe, I read it. Even in India, even in US.
Mhm.
So, how do you see the future of people like you in the learning and development business in handling all these diversity challenges plus this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's already sometimes challenging because, for instance, we had a game called Chinese Whispers, which was a game that we played during trainings, and we can't call it Chinese Whispers anymore because that would not be correct to do so.
It's politically
So
incorrect
it
to.
is quite challenging to integrate.
I lost your voice. Can you speak? Your voice is stopped.
How strange is this?
Oh yeah, now it's back.
Yeah,
Yeah, now you're back. Yeah,
yeah, you will have to cut in this.
yeah, we'll do that. So
Mhm.
can you start from the Chinese whisper part because
Yeah. So it's hard to actually integrate. Hard. You have to think about it. I mean, it has to be in the back of your head all the time when you're doing training. This whole diversity idea. Like we did a game in training, which is called Chinese Whispers in English, or in French, it's called the Arab telephone. Now you can't say those things anymore, because it could be racially seen as not okay to do so. So we have to call the game with a different name. We haven't, by the way, found another name for it. But so in everything that you do, it always has to be in the back of your head, and it makes it more complex to do trainings. But then on the other hand, the people that are in your training might be very sensitive to some of these topics, like the gender, for instance, or anything else. We had a lady in a training, for instance, and she said that because she looks like a boy but she's a girl, that she said that, well, that is a problem for her sometimes, that when this was like she was taking a train and she was giving a whole example, and then it made people in the room also see it from her perspective. But if I would have talked about men and women in a very general way, maybe I would have skipped the sensitivity that she had for this topic. So we have to be very careful. You cannot generalize anymore. You really have to be very careful with what you say, which makes it
so
challenging sometimes. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
as much as hello. Hello.
Yes, you're back
I'm
now.
sorry. I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's my side. Okay. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I am connected, and it's even a good connection, it says, but
Yeah, I don't know. I'm connected on cable, so
yeah, me
can't be.
too.
Anyway,
Oh, how strange, huh? I'm always on the cable just to avoid this.
yeah,
Hmm.
right. So, sorry about that. We'll do. Okay.
Oh, you're
So,
gone again.
uh, well, uh, uh, as much as the technology is making things a lot easier, I think we are having the same problem again. Hello.
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry again. Yeah, I don't know what's the problem. Uh, is it the Zoom? Is it?
Hmm.
I don't know what's happening. Anyway, so sh- uh, okay, we'll just continue. So as much as the technology makes the life easier, we 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 as humans find more complexity to make it more difficult. So
You could say,
clearly, clearly, uh, uh, while we look forward to more challenges uh, and opportunity both ways. So,
mhm.
given all these things, how would you? Is there something you want to come up, make an recommendation or an advice to uh, perhaps policymakers or influencers
Mhm.
or even entrepreneurs? What would you want to say about all these aspects of the future?
Yeah. I think that the well-being part is something that we have to take into consideration. It's something that is really it's here now, and I think it will stay here for a while. Of course, it goes with the waves, huh? The different thoughts and how we see the world. It goes in waves, but we're definitely, especially in Europe, and I believe it's also in India, this that way already, or it's coming, that well-being of employees should be should be seen as something very important. Like if you make big changes in companies, like changing an IT system or any big change in a company, you should take into consideration how people are reacting to that. And that's also what I do with my colleagues. That's the facilitation part. Then very often where we go into companies and talk to the employees and say like, okay, this is the idea that management is proposing, but how can we make it in such a way that you are also happy with this, that you can live with this transformation, with this big change in your organization? So putting people first is, I believe, very important in everything that we do.
Right. Hilda, are you ready to make some predictions?
So predictions for after that, you might say. Well, what I do see, and I did not invent this, but we've worked a lot with Graves. And Graves was a gentleman who passed away, I believe, in the 90s. And he says there's always waves. So now that we're in the wave of like togetherness and we have to take care of each other, now that we are in this wave, probably the next wave will be, and we already see it with nationalism and those kind of things. The next wave will probably more, again, I oriented wave. And that's what Graves said. He said, we always go from the we to the I, from the we to the I. And the next wave always repairs what the previous wave was not capable of doing. But as human beings, as companies, we integrate all the previous waves as well. We still have rituals maybe in companies and that are from a very old wave, of course. So we try to integrate that. So I definitely think that we will go to an I orientation in a few years and go away from that we orientation where we're very much in right now.
Okay. And anything else that you want to uh, you want to talk about from a point of making a prediction, or well, actually, whatever the V to the I is going to touch every aspect of it.
Yes,
So
exactly. It will touch companies, and it will touch my business, which is in learning and development. It will touch all of that because people will be more towards something or to something else, and those waves happen maybe every 10 years, maybe every 30 years. We can't really say how long they're going to stay, because the last ones seem to have lasted only very short periods of time, like 10 years, 12 years or something, while the new ones might last longer or even become smaller.
sure.
So that's very, yeah, much shorter probably. That's what we see with artificial intelligence and all these other in the metaverse and so on coming, that we see that the waves will become shorter and shorter and shorter. I think if I look at predictions for the future for life, I think that looking at our own life and having a life for ourselves beside work is something that I believe that people are going to much more, and it will for the future already become much more important. If I look at what my children are doing, they're between 21 and 23, 25 and so on. That what I see is that they say we will not work as hard as you did, mom, and only like do work. We're going to have a life with a partner, and we're going to be home a lot, and we're going to be spending time with our kids much more. And so I think that that choice is something that the youngsters will this is a very this is a choice that they have made already, and we will see that in the future, that hardworking and all of that, maybe is it worth all of that? Because I went through divorce, so we so many people are going through harsh times personally, and they say, is it all worth this? Shouldn't we go work like 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week or 6? And so I think that's why I said that's that I orientation coming up, of course, saying like, let's look at ourselves. I want to be happy here. And that is, I think, for life, it's a very important thing for the future. We will look more at my life has to be good, and I want to spend the life that I want it to be. And I'm not going to be guided, or guided is maybe too nice of a word. I'm not going to be Like somebody is not going to tell me how I have to live my life. I'm going to do it my way. And I see that already with younger people, not just my children, but actually all this whole age group of people just graduating or still studying. They want a different life from the life of that their parents had, which is not abnormal, of course. That's why we call them different generations. Huh?
So true. So, who are the people you think are impacting on the future? I mean, one is you said from V to I, but not necessarily otherwise. Who you think are doing things today that is going to change the world so much in
Mm-hmm.
the coming times?
Yeah, well, probably those people that are dealing with that new technology like metaverse and artificial intelligence, the people that are working there, the people that are starting up those companies using this technology. I believe that they will have a huge impact on our lives. And I'm not very familiar with the names of these people. I can't really tell you names, but I believe that these companies and the people working there and their CEOs and managers, they will have a huge impact on our lives, and we will probably still we will hear new names coming up probably soon. On the other hand, I am, because you're also within startups, or you help startups to mentor them. What I very often see is that they don't stay a startup and then they become part of a bigger company, very often Google or the Googles and those guys of the world. And it's kind of a pity, because it's in that startup community that life is so different, and there's so much enthusiasm, and then all of a sudden when they're bought by big companies, which I understand they want, because then they can cash. I understand that. But it's changing. Then you become almost like a government employee. Yeah? Once you sell your soul, you become a
Yeah,
employee, and it becomes a totally different ball game with procedures and structure and all of that, and that whole startup mentality just disappears.
right. Well, I was having conversation with someone who said that, see, there are people who are talking about technology and who are doing things in technology, and which is bound to change. But it's not technology that will change us. It is other thing that will, and how we choose to connect with or relate to. So what you are talking about, the choices your children made,
Mhm.
right? About we don't want to be doing this, and we want to be doing that.
Mhm.
So yeah, one side is all the technology that is changing us, making us do some things in some manner, some fashion. That is obviously changing us. And the other one is that how we are engaging this
Mhm.
technologies and how we want to engage ourselves with our lives. So,
Mhm.
so it's surely going to be very different from whatever we've seen so far. But I just hope we'll enjoy the ride.
Mhm. I can see it in my own children that they're taking different routes, you might say. One of them is really like, I want to buy like a piece of land and I want to be disconnected. I don't want to have my phone in my hand all the time. And I want to be totally disconnected and feel nature again, because we live in a city, and where is nature? Where's our basics, our where are our origins coming from? That's what I want to try to find back. And then another kid is like, no, we have to like go forward, technology, that's the new thing. And he's walking with his phone in his hands day and night. I think he's sleeping with his phone under his ear, so I think we might come in at a certain point where people will go into different directions. And it might sound strange that some will go back to basics, but I think that I don't know how many percent, how many of them, but I do believe that the youngsters of today quite a lot of them will go and follow that path of let's go back to the basics, and let's have like a family that we really love and we care for each other, and let's live, eat from the land, which is going to be really, really hard. But okay, let's try to go back to basics. That is absolutely possible. Not all of them, for sure not. Maybe 1/3 or so, but that might have an influence on the way we see things too.
True. Well, it's actually happening here as well. In fact, COVID led more everybody to work from home, right? Like anywhere else. So many people went back to their hometowns, some of them even to their villages, because today uh, electricity is there, internet connectivity is there. So a lot of them have moved back. And as things are beginning to come to normal, many people are trying to figure out if they can stay back and continue with things,
Mhm.
right? And some of them are even choosing to leave the job if it comes to it.
Yeah.
So it's already going towards that. But yeah, we'll have to see how the whole thing will
Mhm.
evolve as we move forward. But thank you so much, Hilda. This was wonderful. Very interesting, and I completely enjoyed the conversation. And I really hope each of our listeners and audience also have enjoyed this. And if you did, please feel free to go ahead and share it with others. And don't have to say that those of you who have missed the first two parts of Hilda's podcast, I'm sure you will go back and check there. Because no, I don't even have to say you should do that. So thank you, and once again, Hilda, thank you so much for doing this, and wonderful. And hope to connect back and do a little more future gazing with you on that. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you.